Well, today I'm excited to have Michael Giaramita with us talking about his journey in building a high performance team. He's also written a book, It's All About Your Team. So that'll be an interesting kind of aside from the journey of this high performance herd podcast. So, Michael, welcome. I'm glad we get to spend some time with you today. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much, David. It's been nice getting to know you, and I'm really excited about this podcast.
Well, Michael mentioned getting to know. We've had a call or two. We've had a chance to kind of look at the background, understand it, and I'm excited because there's a powerful story in I'll call it a market or a business segment that's not always focused on. It's about your team, and what I love about your story, Michael, and I'll have you dive right in, is eventually move to this group PMX. You start a business, you're in commercial real estate, you're building some awesome spaces, and I'd love you to touch on that. But when you started, it was a lot of contention. Some of your early projects were, hey, we're kind of at odds. And your approach to all of it, we talked last time, was awesome. So if you can just give the audience kind of a here's who I am, here's what Group PMX does, and allude to kind of the early story and what you found when you came and started PMX.
Well, great. Thank you. So I guess what started Group PMX is I had built two other businesses for other companies, and I said, well, I was like 55 years old, and I said, why not do it for myself? So that's what the impetus was. In the first few days of starting the business, it was just myself and a partner. This person worked for me for a long time. And we were sitting there on the third day thinking about getting an office. And all of a sudden he says, there's this program called Dropbox that came out. And I said, what does that do? He says, well, that's if you write a file here, you can pick it up at home. So this is 15 years ago. I said, no, that can't be possible, right? So I went home, wrote a file at work, went home, opened it up, and I said, we're not opening an office. We're going to go totally virtual.
Mm,
So back 15 years ago, that's a story to tell today because we're a little scared. We don't have an address on our paper or anything, so we went totally virtual. We've been that way. We've developed all our systems and our people, and it's been a great story to start to grow from scratch and zero space. So we did that. We started up, and within the first 5 years, we're up to about 40 people, and the journey we're up to 80 people now, and looking to grow to 100 and beyond this year.
awesome. And talk a little bit about Group PMX, what you do, the spaces you've built, and kind of, I'll call it early days with some of the contention you had with subs and people in the room and projects. So just give us a feel for all of that so that the listeners understand kind of your background.
So one of the first projects I did was at a hospital. It was a BMT unit, bone marrow transplant unit, and we're working with a big contractor in town. And it was the most contentious. Well, it was I thought it was the most contentious project at the time, but it wasn't. I found another one. So that project was over budget. It was behind schedule. I get to pick it up in the middle and started working through it. And I guess I started learning more about the people and how to deal with the trades and how to deal with the CMs. But at the end of the day, it did get open pretty much on time. Actually, it was on time. When we look back, I ran into a huge problem at the end of the project. There was an exhaust fan that didn't get enough CFMs, and DOH is the inspector. And I did something that was different than anybody else had ever done. I wrote a letter to DOH and said, we don't have everything ready, but I know what's wrong. But if you come and inspect, you know, will you come and inspect anyway and then confirm? And then when we fix that last thing, maybe we can get exception. The DOH inspector walks up to me and says, nobody's ever done that before. They usually get there and we see all these things wrong. You admitted before I got there, which interests me what you were doing. So changing the flavor about how people do things, it sometimes works. It worked very well for us. Got the inspection.
Awesome. And the subtitle, and I know that's pervasive through your team, one team shared success. And early in your story with me that you exude that your approach to the problems with that, the team dynamic is real, and would love for you to talk about that. And then some of the beautiful spaces. You still haven't mentioned that. I'd love to know. So the audience goes, here's some of his work. This is what his company's done.
Okay, so we adopted, and there was a predecessor to one team shared success. It's called CM Neutral. It was something I did 20 years ago, which was about neutralizing the CM and the team. Because every time I dealt with the CM, there was all these trades, and they got ugly all the time. There were a lot of prickly people out there. So the CM neutral approach was to work with them a little better. The one team share success put that on steroids, which now we engage with clients. We talk about how do we make everybody work together? How do we remove the obstacles? It's not about the fight, because there are like 50 teams or 100 teams on a CM job. Like uh, as David alluded to, we did Delta LaGuardia, which is a $4 billion project. Great project. Started out from the beginning, and on that project, when we started out, there was a couple of CMs. We were one of the prime CMs and a couple other primes, and they had decided to have 17 directors on the project. Now, what that caused was total confusion. Nobody knew what to do, how to do it. So I sat down with a client one night and we went through. I said, "What do you want this project to be known for? You have a world class project, building a whole new airport in an existing airport without shutting it down. Amazing feat. It was a great design." And he said, "Well, what do you recommend?" I said, "I recommend three directors." So I sat down with the other two CMs and we met with the chairman of the board. Little do we know, after 6 months, three directors were established. One was happening, one of my guys running the head house. That project went very, very well. The client still thanks me for what happened. And we removed a lot of the contention, because when you bring people together, they come with their own baggage and a lot of baggage, and some people we couldn't get through to. And so it really, really worked out well for us. My premier project, we're working on a $15 billion project right now that's called Borough-Based Jails, which is four new jails in the city of New York, in each of the boroughs. And we're just starting out with that. We've been on about 5 years, but we're just starting construction. And I'm seeing some stuff going on is we're trying to fix those things. Our whole approach is, how do we get everybody to remove the obstacles, focus on the obstacles, start on the early start dates, remove everything you can, and keep the job going.
So, I always talk about that the essence of leadership, and this is in almost every episode. So, I talk about that the essence of leadership from my perspective, after doing this for the time I've done it in the military and running companies, and now working with, about 100 companies a year, is that the essence of leadership is inspiring people to believe in something and then inspiring them to take action toward the belief. And for you, there's this I call shared vision that you capture really well, Michael, which is like, how do we all win? How are we all on one team? How do we remove the obstacles? And so from the get go, you take something that I think traditionally most organizations get this, that there's components that like, I'm great, they're not, or
Yeah.
I'm better than them. And this is going to be the weakness. And your ability, just in the short conversations we've had, to get everyone to go, Put that aside for a minute and go, what are we trying to get done? Like, how does everyone win here?" And it's amazing. Like, the concept of that sounds so easy. And so many people go, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then they don't take the time, energy, or have the capability to make that happen. And so this to me is essence of leadership. And I'm curious, like, for you, go, well, intentional, how have I done it? How have I arrived there? How have I gotten teams to look and go, yeah, it's how do we all win? How do we all put a goalpost in front of us? What is winning?
Well, so I look at it as a project has start date, has an end date, it has a budget, right? Those are the three major things. And when you exceed any one of those, you fail. So when we look at projects now, we say, so we set a schedule, and there are CPM scheduling has a flaw. It's kind of a flaw. There's an early date and there's a late date. Everybody, well, let's do the late dates. We have float and all these different things. Well, the secret is, if you start on the early dates, you finish early. So on a project we did for Jacob Javits Convention Center, the difference in payout between the early date and the late date was $100 million. 100 million a year and $100 million. Now we owed the $100 million, but if you tell the trades, by the way, you get that $100 million a year earlier, guess what they do? They go for it. So you try to convince them, this is what you have to do. And if you have a problem, we want to fix your problem. We don't care who owns it. If the architect owns it, we pay the architect. We're paying for all these things. It's better to get it out of the way. So when you get them to, they all of a sudden come around. They start to think, well, yeah, I'm going to be done a year early. I'm going to get $100 million. And then the other thing is the punch list. Why do we have punch lists on projects? Well, because people don't do a good job. So we bring the architect and engineers out there and have them work with the trades to understand what the intent of the drawings were. And all of a sudden, you finish a job without punch list. So now all of a sudden, there's that big wave. They expected to pay at the end. Doesn't happen. They're getting paid out early.
So Michael, I always point to like when everyone understands where we're headed, vision of future. Like
Uh,
we're going to finish this project early. We all understand that we win when we do that. Yeah, it provides a clarity for everyone. It becomes a north star. It becomes whatever metaphor you want, where people go, "Oh, I get that we're aiming at that." In the absence of that, people will do that on their own. The whatever trade, the electricians will go, well, here's my win, right? Versus what the plumbers or whoever else you're bringing together, instead of going, well, no, the win is the project. The project
that's right.
done completely. And I love your punch list. And the way I'll frame it is you set an expectation that we won't have one and that what's required to do that. How do we live to because the punch list is just there's a problem. It wasn't done correctly. And instead you're going, no, let's start from the beginning to do it correctly.
That's
Let let
right.
let's plan to do it correctly instead of like, well, if we miss something, we can come back. And I think that's common in construction. Like, well, yeah, when we get done, we'll go through the punch list, we'll fix it all. And you're like, well, what does that cost to go back and do and like just do it right the first time?
Right. I
This
mean,
is service call. Sorry, sorry to interrupt. So it's like
no,
a service call. Like, why not put everything in your truck that you may need for the service call, so you don't have to roll the truck twice? I mean, it's the same like thinking. Like, do it right the first time. Sorry, go ahead.
no, no. Go ahead. It's an interesting concept, and I think that what happens is that the trades they put 2 or 3% to the end of the job. Well, if you remove it, and the trades are kind of. I mean, I was working a job at Penn Station. We're doing a big job at Penn Station. I was walking through, and there's a gentleman laying tile on the bathroom, and I said, I'm sorry, but that last row, I said that tile looks smaller in a different color, and he goes, yeah, I just get paid to lay tile, and I said, but don't you see that it's wrong? Again, I just get paid to lay tile. So that kind of attitude, that happens a lot. And if the person just stops and listen, I don't want to waste the time because I'm going to have to take it back out again. If the owner knew that, and if everybody just played by the rules of you have, they'll make more money. And removing those things and changing that culture it's just an amazing thing what happens. And there are lots of jobs I've done that cultures change, and it's amazing. Everybody's working together. I mean, it's
Yeah, I mean, Michael, I
fun.
think the money side of this is an intriguing, like, yeah, we'll all make more money, the project is done. But you've expressed in a couple of these, and it's clear already in this conversation, but it also feels different. Like we're
Oh yeah,
winning, we're doing the right thing, we're all collaborating, and it's the we're crushing it versus we're struggling. And it's like who wants to be on the team that's crushing it versus the team that's struggling? And there's a great quote, and I haven't shared this in any of the podcasts yet, from Drucker. And Drucker said only three things happen naturally in organizations: friction, confusion, and underperformance. Everything else requires leadership. And in an awesome way, Michael, and I love your general attitude. It's not like a beat my chest and I'm doing it. It's no, my ability to get people to understand common goal and move toward it and have this shared success is awesome. And it's not often done. And so if you can provide insight to like what's your way, approach, push, how do I get teams to understand that? What would you say?
so there's a couple of projects I've done, and one was one of my. It's many years ago, about 30 years ago. There was a project I was hired by the Port Authority to go to this project at Newark Airport. They were putting a people mover train, and it was a monorail. And the job the job was well, at least a year behind schedule. And so my first job was to go in there and tell them that they're going to be a year late. They weren't happy with that. But as I started to wind that to make to get it done in a year, because it was a year of testing, it had to be done because it was a peopleless, driverless people mover system. So the structure wasn't done, all these things weren't done, and I started working with the trades, and I come up with this idea that if you miss the early start date or early finish date, that's a problem because that pushes the schedule out. So the trades every month, every week they come in and present in front of me, and all I do is ask them a question. How'd you do this month or this week? And I said, well, you lost 100 days. And they said, well, how you lose 100 days? Well, you didn't start your job on time. You started on the late date. After about a month and a half, one of the trades electrician walks in, and he walks in like a peacock. He walking in, and I said, "What's going on?" He goes, I'm 1,000 days ahead this time." Well, how'd you do that? He said, "I asked the steel guy to put a vent up so I can hang my conduit early." Right? I didn't push him. I just laid the track, and he went and took it. Everybody else caught on then. Every trade was pushing the previous trade to be done early so they could be done early. And there was a pride that it was unbelievable.
Yeah, and Michael, the story sounds so simple. Like, okay, and I go, but most people don't speak the expectation. Most people don't set the vision. Most people kind of like, well, we're laying tile. Well, I'm running a electrical company. I'm doing a
Yeah.
whatever. Versus well, what would a remarkable expectation look like? How do we do it right the first time? How do we exceed? How do we work collaboratively? And that's clear in all the conversations that you and I have had. I'm curious if we go all the way back to the beginning for you and go, yeah, at some point I decided I want to lead teams. When was that?
Probably in my early 30s. Yeah, I think that's when, there was a project I did. My boss said to me, "Mike, I need something done over the weekend," and I said, "That's almost impossible to do." He goes, "No, I need it done for Monday. I need it on Monday." I said, "The only way I can do that is I'm going to probably have a lot of dead people behind me." So he said, "Go." So I did. Got there Monday, gave him the document. A couple hours later, he called me back in his office and said, "Mike, there's a bunch of dead people out there." And I said, "You're right. I told you. If I did it today, no dead people." It's about how you approach things. It's how you do things. You don't have to demand. You have to get them motivated to do what they have to do so you can do what you have to do. And it's about leadership. It comes down to leadership at that point. So that was a big lesson for me back in my early 30s.
So PMX starts, you and a partner. It starts, I'm sure, in the way most companies start, like, hey, we have projects, we've done work for other people, we'll start to do it. If you talk about kind of I'll call it scale growth from whatever start to today, describe what's happened. Describe kind of growth, culture, what's happened inside of PMX in that scale. Because a lot of organizations go through the growth you have, and it's worth just sharing. Here was the essence of it. Here's how we did it. Here's what happened. Here's how we're different than we were when we started.
Okay, so as we started the company, we had a great reputation in the marketplace. I had grown to other companies in New York, and so we started out. My partner, we won a job with one client. My partner did that project. It was a big $200 million project, and I went off just started doing other stuff. So in the first year, we probably didn't grow very much. The second year, I started doing marketing and visiting other clients, and just would get one, pass it down, get another one, pass it down, start hiring people. I remember sitting in Bryant Park in New York City in one summer. I needed 8 people. I got a call on a Tuesday. By Thursday, I had to produce 8 people. I sat there, interviewed 10 people in Bryant Park the whole day, and people like, this is your office? Well, yeah, we're kind of virtual. We can be anywhere we want to be. 8 people signed up. Were with us for 5 years. I mean, these things happen, and it is so. We do have a very strict culture. Well, not strict. I wouldn't say strict, but there are certain things we look for in our culture, and we have a culture check on everybody. We're actually doing more this year than we've ever done. Our 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 performance review system is not performance review. It's about how do we accelerate their career. So we look at all their skills. We don't care about what they did. What are your skills? What can you learn tomorrow? My dream is to walk into a presentation with my people and have their skills like this is a project manager. By the way, he's got a civil engineering degree, he's got these things, but he's taken classes and about everything you can imagine to improve his delivery to you. And it's more about how do we get the people to look at those things and say, yeah, I'm going to gain because of that, because I'm educating myself. It's not about how you did with your job, but how you can do better with everything and compare them against everybody else.
So you brought in culture and said, "Hey, that's been part of it." If you had to describe it, if it's centered around core values or vision mission, or many times it's not well described, but it's evident. I always joke and go, it's kind of like Sesame Street, that
Yeah.
all of us are the same, and one's not like the others, and the one that's not like we push aside. They just don't remain on Sesame Street. Now, as you can imagine, that could be written, codified, lived, or I go, it's evident and it's in the room. How would you describe it for PMX, Group PMX?
So, um, we looked at a Harvard Business Review definition of culture probably 10 years ago, and there were four quadrants in this graph, and it was caring, one was demanding, one was caring. I don't remember all the places, but what I sat there for like 2 months reading this article and figuring out what it really meant, and I was able to make a distinction about four types of purpose, caring, education, and I circled that thing, and I said, but it's like one thing. I said, no, I have more than one thing. I have these four things. So we had a staff meeting back, probably 10 years ago, and I put this poster on the wall, and everybody walk in the room with two flags, and they would post the flag where they thought the culture was. If I tell you they were exactly where I wanted it, I
Mm.
couldn't tell you. It was amazing. And so we spend a lot of time getting that people in that circle. And they, not everybody was in the right place, but they all as a group were in the right place.
I work with organizations doing this, Michael, and I'm always amazed that those who do it well, it's understood. Whether or not it's on the wall or said or codified, um, it's evident and in the room, I call it. And second, it's used. And what I mean by used is it's a litmus test every day. Like, no, this is the group PMX way. We do it this way.
Hmm.
Um, and that if you don't do it that way, you stand out. This is you're not like the others on Sesame Street. And the very best have it both very implicit. It's written. Here it is. And they'll have it on t-shirts and they'll use it every day that these are our three or four, core values. And one of my favorites of that was Southwest Airlines at its start was we have a warrior spirit, a servant's heart, and a fun loving attitude, and they defined what those were. And it's still to me with the essence of like, well, this is what we're about. Like, we're going to compete, yet we're going to serve, yet we're going to have fun. And so you can't be one of those. You can't come in and go, well, I'm a warrior and I'm beating people up, the dead body story you're telling. Like,
Yeah.
no, I need to also serve people, and I need to have
Right.
fun. And it's best captured in what you said, like, well, when we're winning and the team is enjoying this success. It's if any sports metaphor, you're like, it's a whole lot more fun winning.
Yeah.
I heard
Absolutely.
today a quote, somebody said, winning is more fun than fun is fun.
I like that. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. I was like, huh. Yeah. And it literally is like four teams. We can go have fun, or we can win and have a collaborative approach to winning. And it's what you said, like, if we just go mess around in your projects and have fun, but don't win the project, like, how much fun is that really? Because at the end of the
Yeah.
day, we're going to be scrutinized. And so there's a bunch there that's awesome. Michael, if you look and go, yeah, hey, we've had great success. I have a team. How have you grown the team? What's been your approach to? I need more good people here. I need, I always call it my herd. I need stronger bulls in the herd. I need people that are powerful, passionate, live the way we want, understand how we do it. How have you done that over the years?
So the one team share success has really been really good for us because as people see that, we say this is what we expect. This is there's no crossing the line. This is what we expect. You're a smart person, you're smart people, but you have to go out there and build that team. There's in our industry, there's a lot of people like, and when two sports teams go to the field, it's just two of them. Ours is like 50. When you get all 50 of them and they act a little prickly, it doesn't work well. So sometimes you have to make changes. Organizational. I think I actually measured when I was doing a project. There were three things I did. One was organization. One was I took a spirit of called project first thinking. That's when we come into a project, we take our hat off and put on a client's hat. Where here's what they expect, here's what we want to do, and you look at organization, you look at tools, and you look at people. And so those things, when what the biggest success I had was organization. There was no question. When I changed the organization, people were put into a bucket. This is what I do, and the organization was so I have a delivery meeting, I have QA/QC, and I have commercial. The commercial meeting. So when you're in a delivery meeting, you can't talk about change orders and all the other stuff that gets confusing. So when I said this is the other meeting you have to go to, and some of the same people run both of those, I was doing a project when I first did this. I went to one commercial meeting in 2 years. And that commercial, so that job was $100 million over budget. So there's lots of meetings about that before. But I said, we're not talking in delivery, we're talking about delivery. I want to know what you're doing. How can we help you? Then the QA/QC thing. But having those three pieces, and that's the whole entire organization, that every function's in within those three things. Deliveries prime. What do we need to do delivery? I don't want to report on it. I want to get it done. So really, really change the attitude.
And as you've grown and found people, what have you relied on? Like that they're a match to what we are? What's the essence of how you choose the next person?
So we do have a culture review by our HR. HR reviews everybody for culture. In fact, we're revisiting that right now to get it a little stronger, and maybe even do a test. And I think you talked to me about a culture check, and
Yeah, yeah, I think
yeah,
that there's a bunch of ways to assess talent, which I'm a firm
yeah,
believer in. Like,
yeah,
I even go so far as like whatever you can afford, time and money to better understand people you bring on your team. You should. Like,
yeah,
it's the most important thing we do, and we should know when we bring them on the team that they're a fit. That the way I frame it is like they want to do what we do. That they're
right,
excited about it. I'm like they're getting on the bus because on the front of the bus for Group PMX it says something most trusted, most collaborative, whatever it is. And you go, they walk up to the bus and go, yeah, I want to get on it. The equivalent is like you're going to a bus and it says San Francisco or New York City. You know which one you want to go to. Like,
yeah,
so if it's clear and everyone knows, they know one to get on the bus. And then second is, well, do they have the skill to do whatever job it is? Like, I always frame clubhouse like, are they good in the clubhouse? Yeah, they're a great culture. Well, can they play a position on the field? Because I,
yeah,
I need I need a second baseman. So can you catch? And a second baseman is different than a shortstop, is different than center field, and we I see a lot of organizations that find the clubhouse fit, and then they go, well, he's not really a very good second baseman, and so we're going to let him play like this middle infield thing and do popcorn occasionally, and create this role that's not a real role.
no.
So
And it spoils for everybody else, right? Everybody else sees that person, and yeah, that's a problem.
yeah, and you go,
Yeah,
yeah, they're great. They like wear our colors and they're kind of a mascot. I'm like, no, we need somebody to play a position. And on the flip side, we don't want the Adonis super athlete, but a jerk. Like,
right,
yeah, great. That's the best shortstop in the world, but they are an ass. Like,
yeah,
I'd rather not have them on the team.
exactly,
Yeah. And
exactly. It's not
particularly the
worth
way
it.
you've described it, like, that's not going to help me do what I'm doing when you have this collaborative, bring teams together. I mean, the answer I get for you guys, and it's in your one team shared success. Like we're all in the same boat. Like we're rowing together, right? We all have the same destination. We're going to arrive there at the same time. When we all row together, and whatever the metaphor, Michael, is brilliantly described. Um, I'm curious how your focus has changed in the evolution of Group PMX. Like day one, I was doing everything would be my guess.
Yeah.
As times have changed, where and how are you spending your time, and what's that evolution look like?
So it's I manage a corporate group, all the strategy. My partner runs operations or delivery. So I spending more and more time with the operations group, marketing, finances. We have a client that owes us $1 million, and so we're paying attention more to that. We're meeting every week, and we have with the marketing, we're doing more focus now on using our brand to bring inbound clients. I mean, so we're changing the way we approach building business because I get to a certain size, I can't get any bigger without doing something different. So we're changing everything we do and getting our people more involved and more quality checks. And really, I was talking to a gentleman today who was a chairman of STV, an older man, and I said, "So what's your secret?" He goes, "Just have them do a great job. They do a great job. It's repeat business, right?
Yeah, there's
Hasn't changed in 100 years, right?
no,
That's
I mean, there's in all of the things all of us do, there's just simple truths. Like, because I get asked all the time, like, "Hey, I'm building a coaching practice, or I'm done whatever." I'm like, no matter what it is, do good work. That's the
right.
first thing. You do good work, people will ask for more. They'll tell other people.
So I spent a lot of time last year and this year is really structuring the group, and I did it. I redid some things this year for growing the business, and so it's about. Well, I've got a full time recruiter that she's recruiting all the time. We have a something in our we have an opportunity in our database. When that's coming up, we're hiring the people in advance. We're not waiting. We're
Awesome.
ready to go.
So I hear two things in that, and I'll bounce them against you. That I'm spending more time on the business than in it. Like, what is the business? How do I move the business forward versus do project management or
Yeah.
run a construction project? Like, no, what is our business and how is the business better? And almost always when I see leaders go through that, Michael, they move to a period of like, I'm a little confused or lost. This seems like I'm being lazy. I'm not doing all the work that I used to do. Have you had any of that?
So I'm going to say it a different way. Um, yes, and what I've done now is say I'm not responsible for that anymore. That's your responsibility. So that's what I've done is I just pushed back. I said, "Yeah, you want me to do that? That's not my job anymore. This is what I have to do because if I don't do this, then somebody else is gonna stop."
Yeah,
And so
awesome.
this year was transforming because I just said I can't do that anymore. I'm not hiring people. I'm not doing those kind of things because I can't focus on what I need to do.
Well, and it's funny because this is well described in a book called Tribal Leadership, and it talks about the evolution of tribes that we move
Right.
from. I'm in a gang or prison and my life sucks, all the way to we're changing the world is stage 5, and stage 3 is most organizations on the planet, and it's framed by I'm great, you're not, and what you've already overcome is you've moved the organization and the people you influence to stage 4, which is we're great. And in that, the book describes leaders go through what's called an epiphany, that they wake up one day and go, I can't be as good as I want unless I have great people, great team, and a
Yeah.
noble cause. And that once I do that, we can now evolve and get better and start to change the world. And yeah, in subtle ways, you guys are already doing that. You could look and go,
Yeah.
what's the real way? And, I described in our first call, like, I've been in the space you built and it's beautiful. It has an impact. Like, it's a different airport than it was when I visited. And it just is. And it's
10
a more
years ago. Yeah.
enjoyable
Yeah.
experience. And, you all look at that and everyone that touched it go, yeah, we took part in that and we did it well. And we built a lasting, enduring, beautiful space and it serves people and so that's awesome. As you look to, I'll call the next 5 years and go, what's on your mind, thought, challenges that you'll face, goals forward? What's in that, Michael?
So I'm a big proponent of succession planning. I've tried it a couple of times in my company. I need to find somebody to replace me in the next, let's say, couple of years. And I'm thinking actually, what's kind of interesting in these days, I'm not going to hire somebody in New York. I'm going to hire somebody where I want to grow to, maybe Europe or someplace else. Put somebody of significance in another spot, and then let me just kind of fade out. But I'm thinking there's so many choices in the world today, whereas we thought we used to think very local. No, forget that. Global. Just go global and figure it out.
That's awesome. And so I hear in that hey, I'm winding down. I want to have less day-to-day involvement. I want to have someone take over. If and when that occurs, what will that mean for you?
So I think the value is probably in starting out projects, right? I mean, I think that's probably the biggest part where we come in. And so you take a client that signs an IPD contract, right? IPD, integrated project delivery, and they all sign it and they go off and do their thing and get it. Guess what? Most of them just fall apart because it's a signature. I change culture. I change the way people behave. So I love doing it because it's I don't care what they say to me. It's just phew, this goes over my head and I'm done. But we can change culture and change things in a way that they get it within a little time. It doesn't take very long, and once they get it, it is the most powerful thing you can see. When people, a carpenter picks up, drops a hammer, electrician picks it up and gives it to him. That's where you want to get to, right? You want to get
That's
where
an
everybody's
awesome
working at.
little that's an awesome little simple metaphor that everyone can understand. Um, if you either step back from this and go, "Hey, the typical entrepreneur hearing this," or the way I also frame it is the advice you would give yourself 20 years ago, it's usually the same. When you think about your journey and go, "Man, here's what I wish people would think about. Here's the wisdom I would share. Here's what I wish I would have told myself 20 years ago." What comes to mind?
The first thing, don't ever give up.
Hmm.
Don't ever give up. I mean, just and things like, I mean, we've been through the last 20 years of technology explosion. Don't be afraid of it, right? Use it. We're building an AI agent right now to do some of the things we do every day. Embrace it. When I first started a business, what caused me to go virtual? Technology.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that little simple
Dropbox.
program,
Yeah.
yeah,
Dropbox.
yeah.
Yeah.
So think about, when I tell that story, people go, "Yeah, I was there when that happened too," and I didn't think about what you did. I said, "Yeah, it was the key, because it was the first time I can do something outside of being where I didn't have to be anywhere. I could be
Yeah.
home doing things, and you can be in a cab or wherever."
Well, I'm always amazed. There are moments, and I'll even frame this conversation. We're not in the same room, but I feel like I'm in the same room. Like
Yeah,
you and I are having a meaningful conversation. We're sharing ideas, and I go, there's a closeness and intimacy that people originally, when we talked about Zoom and all, like, oh, you can't. I'm like, yes, you can. Now, is it the same? Can we go to have lunch together? No. We can't share a drink. We can't do those things, but we can share an idea and be in the same idea space, and technology is all that's brilliant. If people want to know more about you or Group PMX, where can they find more? Where can they follow the journey?
so www.grouppmx.com is, or my email is mjaramita@grouppmx.com. um I want to tell people that, there's a couple of things, a list of things I wrote down, and that I believe in. So culture beats strategy. I mean, that's one of the things I learned a long time. If you have great culture, doesn't matter. You can do anything you want to do. Think big and think bold, right? Don't give up. Don't give up on ideas. And again, the idea of learn continuously, embrace technology, all these things. Like, I'm smiling because I like talking to you. I'm getting to know you. This is my face showing that, but it's
Yeah.
inside. It's inside because we're enjoying each other. So you're right. We don't have to be in the same room. We can be anywhere. It's about the interaction with the people.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for your time today. Really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed our conversations. Look forward to potential future ones.
Okay.
And if the audience has anything for Michael, the way I always like to frame these at the end, if someone looking for X in this area, they should look for you for what? So if I'm a developer XYZ, I'm a guy in New York, I'm wanting a awesome space. What is that? Who should look for you?
So I think that if most owners, if they've always had trouble doing things because of, maybe they should look in the mirror, maybe it's them. How do we change that behavior, and how do we build that team for them so that they can see the fruits of their labor in a much more pleasant manner? Because, like I said, IBD, people sign that contract, but it's just the owner signing the contract, not everybody below that. I get down to the trade guy. I get to the trade guy in the field, and when I get him to want to do it the correct way, it just starts to go back up.
Yeah.
Everybody's, "Oh, wow, look how Joe did. He did a great job over there." And the secret is make sure there's no missing parts. I mean, people ask us to go on projects to report. I said, "I don't want to report. I want to fix it. I want to just change it
So,
and fix
so
it."
I hear if you're tired of the way you've been building spaces and you're in, I'll go, what city? Does it matter where?
No, no.
If you're tired of that, they should call you. They should go, hey, we have a different way of going at it. Let me help you.
Yeah, if you're building the bridge from Sicily to Italy, I want to be there. So
Awesome. Michael, thanks again. Really enjoyed our conversation.
thank you, David.
Yeah.
Again, great to meet you. Thank you.